Hello, my name's Tom Cahill. It's Sunday, 31st of August 2014. I just want to make a video about something. It's a follow-on from another two that I did. One going back a couple of months maybe, and one that was about a week ago. As I expressed right at the start of the last video, I find it quite depressing that people seem to be so fixated on personalities, and that kind of the cult of personalities actually is as strong, if not stronger, in the sort of alternative media circles than it is in the normal media circles. And the weird thing with it is, as well as this, it's also just as contrived. Now, a character called Chris Spivey, I was really concerned about the fact that he had been doing some quite good work for quite a while. It wasn't particularly well written, but he had some good comments, and he actually had a good eye for detail, and he was looking into things that, quite frankly, most of us won't have enough time to look into. So whoever was, however he was financing himself or whatever, I'm not saying he was being financed by anybody, but he was doing quite a good. He was putting up some value. There was value. I was getting value out of it. I would read his articles quite regularly. If not just skim them, I would often read the whole thing and get something out of them. Then all of a sudden they became absolutely useless. And he was just repeating the same stuff again, and most of them were rubbish. And the thing is that he went from having been on, I'd say, friendly terms with me, because I'd spoken to him on Skype before about the fact that he was going to get set up for harassment. Then as soon as he gets set up for harassment and his site went down the toilet, whether it's him who's writing it or not, they keep constantly attacking me. And if you, I mean, I can hardly believe this, right? I was just skimming over his site there today, on the 30th, that would have been yesterday, he's actually done an article where he's basically just talked about me through half the article. It's very, very strange. And the thing is, he's also talking about this other guy. Now, I'm not sure this other guy even exists, but this other guy apparently says that he's actually an actor off Hollyoaks. So they quote him, but they also say we're not going to quote Tom anymore. We're not going to, because we don't want to give him the satisfaction. Now, this is all completely ridiculous, and it's really nothing for anyone really to put too much of their time in. I mean, obviously, whoever's writing these articles, there's something very sad about the fact that saying, "Oh, that guy's a nobody," and then just constantly talking about them, and also obviously calling them silly bad language, using lots of bad language and silly, name calling, very, 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 very childish, and also deliberately saying that they've said things that they haven't said, and misquoting virtually every single thing that you draw reference to, like deliberately misleading the readership. Now, the thing that I find most, I think, something that's worth drawing attention to here, is if you look at his commenters, all of his commenters now are all carrying on with this very childish behaviour. It's very childish. It's not, it's not becoming of them, Now, I reckon a lot of his readership will just be unemployed wasters. Obviously, a lot of them will be, or they've just got nothing else to do with themselves, and they just love getting into a gang, and they think they're kind of friends then. But some of the weird things they were coming out with, like complimenting on me on my good looks and stuff like that, inadvertently, quite regularly. There's like quite a lot of reference to it. And, sort of saying, oh, he's got nice eyelashes and stuff. But you see, all this is still very strange. This isn't, but then it's like they're still trying to slag you off. So it's like, and they're saying he thinks he's really clever. Now, while I'm at it, right, yeah, I know I'm clever, thanks very much. But, right, there's lots of things I'm a lot better at than being clever. Right, for one, I'm very good at drawing, I'm very good at art. Now, if you look at Spivey, if he's gonna be a dickhead, right, that's up to him. But he's got all these like spiders webs all over him, all these messy rubbish tattoos. He's got like a silly little child, like an eagle that's drawn on his neck here. Looks like something a little kid's done. I'd say his tattoos are so absolutely terrible. A lot of people say all tattoos are tantamount to self-harm, and there's that Japanese doctor who's done this. Doctor is like a scientist, and he's done this research to say that water has a resonance. You can kind of put bad thoughts into it or bad words in it, and it kind of tastes different. Also, I forget what it is, but like you don't want to be having like negative things tattooed all over you. It will have it has potential negative effects. But basically, Spivey's tattoos that he's done all over himself, they're very amateurish and childish. They don't look like proper grown-up tattoos that an actual professional would do. They look like something someone from Gillingham would have on them, like just some scumbag who just got absolutely pissed, and a week later he finds out he's got a tattoo on his leg he didn't even know he had. Spivey's tattoos are like that. So the thing is with Spivey, he's shit at tattoos, he's not good at writing, he can't get to the point, he can't structure things, he can't reference things, he's never been able to do that. He has, however, got a good eye for certain things, like the timing of events, like the story about the guy in America who's just been shot by the police, and then they come out with this CCTV of the guy and this other guy allegedly in a shop causing a robbery to make him look like a big nasty black man as opposed to like a big gentle giant. All quite very credible. Could be the case. So you see, this is the thing. I'm not one of these idiots who starts slagging somebody off and then negates to say anything good they've done. It's not my way. But you see, the point is that when it comes down to it, if you can't structure your articles well, you can't really write that well. To be honest, Spivey actually speaks quite well, but he says, I don't do that, I'm a writer. It's like, look mate, you think you're a tattooist, you're shit at tattoos, then you say you're a writer, you're shit at writing, then you put in this childish bad language constantly, which just detracts from the fact you're not any good anyway. Do you know what I mean? You don't structure your articles like a journalist does. And he says he's a journalist. But then again, so does his apparent new mate, Bill Baloney. Now, one of the other things I'd like to draw attention to here is one of the things that they're trying to imply, these, or whoever's writing these articles is saying, basically trying to make homosexual connotations between me and this other one. There's even a picture of someone who is probably obviously meant to be me, and this other guy, and they're kind of drawn on kind of like a male pattern baldness on this bald guy's head, sort of kissing and stuff, and they're going, oh, I love you, or something like this. And it was quite funny, but well, sad, but like, it's quite funny the fact they've gone to the length of this. The whole point is, right, you've got to remember that one of the things that I picked up Spivey for, right, was he is linked to Bill Maloney, or Bill Baloney, right? Then he is linked to Peter Tatchell. He loves Peter Tatchell, and like I've described in the past, the two things that Bill Baloney likes to go on about is the fact there should be an amnesty on paedophiles, and he also keeps going on about how brilliant gayness is, and gay's got nothing to do with it, and Aunt Grey's brilliant. Now, because we all know we've got any brains, that the two things are completely linked. Not all gays are pedos, but most gays have been messed around with growing up, or like, which could be when they're 18, but they've been sort of got at when they were at a young age, and they wouldn't be perverted if that hadn't happened to them, probably. And Spivey used to be very, very clear about this, and then as time's gone by, he seems to have dropped this, and he's embracing this Bill Baloney. And Bill Baloney's best mate is this Peter Tatchell. Now, Peter Tatchell is one of the most disgusting, malevolent, disgusting Jewish subversives that I think has ever been allowed on the TV. He's totally endorsed by the BBC. Absolute, complete subversive, like should be swinging from a lamppost. He's one of the lowest type of people you're ever going to come across. Now, I used to think he was just like an innocent gay, but he's not at all. When he was campaigning to get the age of consent brought down from 18, he had his campaign slogan was 16 is just the start. So basically, and let me be very clear, Pat Tatchell wants to go around raping children in children's homes and shouting up people in children in sweet shops. He is a complete and utter Jewish subversive, the most foul, disgusting type. You're like Sodom and Gomorrah, Babylon. He's the kind of person who'd like to live there. So Spivey's endorsing him, right? But via Bill Baloney, who he reckoned before about a couple of months ago he'd never even met before. Absolute bollocks. He'd never even spoke to him before. I don't believe that for a second. Or if he hasn't, there's a good reason for it, like as though they've been deliberately staying apart as some kind of tactic. Right now, so if he's saying, we're not going to endorse anything to do with homophobia, that homophobia is bad. And one of his other little mates called this copper called what's his name, Dave Knight, he also, even on his site, says we will not tolerate homophobia. Well, it's like, you can't really say that. If you want free speech, you can't really say that, because if someone wants to be homophobic, I mean, if I was gay and someone didn't like gays, I don't really think I sort of feel the need to hate them. I just think, well, yeah, well, I can see it's perverted, so that's it. And I know a lot of gays are like that. So you see what I mean? Even if you are gay, it doesn't necessarily follow that you'd have this problem, this proclivity to, oh, I'm going to hate them back. It's just childish. It's the kind of thing a cop would come out with, because I believe he is a cop of that, Dave Knight. Anyway, so he's then got pictures, apparently me kissing this other guy. It's not meant to be, it's just a joke. He's not pretending it is me. But the point is, he's breaking all these silly little rules. So all of the silly little rules are all getting broken. It's all just a big mishmash. Now, for me, that spells total lack of control. Now, the silly swear, the silly bad language, always look like that. But this is where it gets interesting, is the fact that all of his little minions who comment on his site, every single one of them, that article had like two sort of components, slagging me off and talking about people trying to get after his daughter's kid because he's got in trouble with the police. That's what it's allegedly about. But you see, in that, you've got to remember that all these people are just sort of jumping on the bandwagon and using lots of bad language. It's all very childish. But on top of this, right, this is significant, right? A little while ago, the police came round his house and took him away and searched his house without arresting him, so he wasn't arrested. And the whole thing was very suspicious. And as soon as this happened, I banged up on the internet immediately. Why did he do this? Why did he do that? Why did he do that? Why did he do that? I put it on a few forums. This does not make any sense. And he was saying, I didn't get arrested at the time. And this is all recorded. He's actually done interviews saying this, and he's written it down on this site. And of course, this other thing should be noted, right? He has actually been changing his articles and the comments on them. So, like, you look at something a week later and it doesn't say what it said before. It's changed. So they say something that makes them look like immature little children who've gone into like a tizzy fit, and then they change it so that it's not there. But of course, I've saved these emails because I knew they'd do it, because I know the level of these people. They're not that bright, and I'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, so basically, what's happened with him is he's been putting up these articles saying that he wasn't arrested. And now, in this latest article, and I haven't read the whole thing, seriously, I just cannot be bothered. I start going to sleep now with him, because they're getting worse and worse. Even if he's talking about me, I'm as vain as I am, I can't be bothered to read it. He's sort of contradicting himself, and he's saying to think that I haven't been arrested, like it's outrageous. And then he's saying, and this is, again, another total contradiction, he's saying the Sun said I did, the Daily Mail said I did, the Mirror said I did, or something like that. And it's like, but they're all the newspapers you slag off every single day, and so they just lie all the time. And now you're using them in your... Now, you see, this kind of schizophrenic type behaviour is very, very weird. Now, getting back to the intelligence thing, this is the thing, right? Whenever you meet somebody and they say something and you think, well, I wouldn't have thought of that, or, God, that's clever, like they've really put a bit of work in there. What happens is, a part of you kind of wants to kind of empathise with them, because you think, well, that's really good, I'm really impressed with that. Now, some of the things Spivey's come up with, or, at least he's presented on his website, have been really quite insightful. And whereas they're, as a result of spending a lot of time, they are things which are still quite impressive. But the problem is, with lots of people, they can do a few impressive things. So then what you think is you just assume they can do everything else well. And the problem with assuming people can do other things well is often they can't. And then you sort of think, hang on a minute, this links back to them being shit at doing tattoos. So that's his job, his primary job. He's shit at tattoos, isn't he? Look at his shitty tattoos all over the place. And I know these people who do these tattoos themselves, some of them do it sort of like because they like to do them themselves, just to sort of say, well, look, I don't mind having a go on myself. So, like, do you trust me to do a tattoo on you? Which is about not being a hypocrite and stuff, and that's commendable. But the thing is, he's shown other pictures of people's tattoos on his website, and they're shit as well. And the thing is, I don't know how old he is, but like he's mid-40s to late 40s. He might be 50. I don't think he's that old. But the point is, that's quite a long time of being shit at tattoos and not getting any better at them, isn't it? I mean, I know he said he used to be a builder, but then another really, really weird thing he said just very, very recently is, as in on the 30th in this article, he said the police are in cahoots with social services to take his kids away, his daughter's child away. You know, I can well believe that could well be the case. You know, the whole thing could be made up. It really could be made up. Everything he says could be made up because he's told so many lies and he's completely lost all his integrity, so far as I'm concerned. But when I say that, he's lost his integrity. He's not a safe pair of hands, but I think he has been subverted, and I think he's just been made to look such a cunt. He just doesn't know what to do. So he's just gonna, you know, he's just gonna play along with it because he doesn't know what to do, and he might be getting threatened with various things. But the point is, he then goes, "Oh, I bet a lot of you don't know that I've actually got 5 children, not just one, not just his daughter, whoever her name is, who lives with him." And then he said, "And none of them have ever been arrested, and none of them have ever been expelled from school, and you know, they've all got married, the grown-up ones, and they've never got divorced." And you think, well, hang on a minute. So if she's 18, is this daughter he's got now. So for 18 years, he hasn't really seen fit to have anything to do with them. You know, or not enough significant that you would think to mention them. Now, quite possibly, there's a reason why he doesn't want to involve them with stuff. But then you sort of think, why would he involve them now? Just because he's in trouble with the police, why would he involve them now? And he's also showing pictures of, like, awards for, like, dance instructors and stuff, and he's showing them that are on the wall in his flat. Now, that seems very strange to me, because if you live in a 2-bedroom flat with your daughter, why would you have the certificates of your kids? Now, I think the reason, you know, who don't live there, now I think it's because probably split up the wife, they probably don't have much to do with each other, and the children like to sort of give it to him as a little present, you know. So for me, there's definitely something, you know, this is the major source of his problems, is he's not being entirely honest about what his personal life is, which it's none of anyone else's business, but then for some reason he's then sought to bring it up now. Now, either he's been told for some reason to do this, and he's going along with it for some unknown reason, or he's thinking he's going to get something out of it because he's not thinking straight. Now, I don't think the guy's thinking straight. Whilst I'm at it, I'm going to go in about a second, but one thing I really would like for you all to recommend you all do, as I said, I find it very dreary going on about these people. I've explained in the past, you know, like, I'm not saying Chris Spivey started to tell lots of lies. He's got lies going through his site about me, demonstrable lies, deliberately saying I've said things I didn't say, and about this other guy as well. Absolute, you know, complete zero integrity now. So, like, even though he might be getting pushed into this situation, it's for him to extend the olive branch. And with me, I've contacted him. I've said, you know, what are you playing at, sort of thing. I'm not attacking him in any way. I'm just pointing out the facts, and these are facts and not opinions. But the thing is that he then sort of says things like, oh, and he just wants to be friends with me. And he's saying this other guy who he's saying says he's off Hollyoaks wants to be friends with him. Now, it's all a bit weird anyway. Now, obviously, you know, I think he's done some good work in the past, I'm not going to lie. And, of course, when I ever did speak to him, which he doesn't admit that he's ever done, but he did, and I told him about what was going to happen, they're going to try and set him up with harassment, which did happen, yeah. See, these things, they're all linking together, and I don't think that they're all totally disparate. But you see, the point is that, like I've said, I find it very sort of dreary that people will focus on people all the time. Now, sometimes you have to do it, but the fact that all of his fans are more interested in talking about me when he's talking about this family that he's never mentioned before, and the fact that he thinks that they're trying to take his children away, his daughter's children away, I think that's, well, surely that me, what would I, you know, like, what possible, how could I possibly figure in that equation be worth mentioning? It doesn't make any sense. So he's obviously got some real problems for me just asking a few questions about him and mentioning the fact that he's lied about a few things, and the fact that he's obviously been subverted, and there was a marked change in his site, and his behaviour was very sort of like quite unacceptable. But as I said, when, you know, like, as I said, I always use the analogy, if you like, I said, COINTELPRO people, fair enough, they might be able to crawl out of the bowl, but, you know, like, basically, once you've shitted them out, that's the end of them. You know, you've had a shit. Spivvy's history, insofar as he's completely compromised, he's like an Alex Jones or someone like that. You know, you can never, or David Icke, you can never trust anything he says. It might be interesting, it might be of use, but you can't really trust him. So, he is an ex-COINTELPRO agent, like Bill Baloney, Brian Gerrish, Roger Hayes, all these people, you know, they are basically, they've all been shitted out. I've explained to them what's happened and what's going to happen if they don't answer the questions. They can't answer the question. You know, their history. They've got as much negotiation chips as a piece of shit has. You know, it's going. Once you've decided it's going, it's going. I can easily expose them. You don't need to tell everybody. You just need to tell enough of the right people, and people go, yeah, that makes sense. He's an ex. You've shitted another one out. So I have shitted him out. That's a historical event now, like I've explained. But the fact that people keep want to kind of go over the same ground, and they feel the need to sort of like in a very weird, sort of slightly schizophrenic way, slag me off. It doesn't make any sense. And this is the other thing that I've just been wondering. I made a video a while ago saying who is the COINTELPRO budget in England. You know, like, you know, logically there is a COINTELPRO budget. Who's it getting spent on? You know, they do have one, Operation Mockingbird. You know what I mean? They will have one. So who are the people? They must be somebody. So therefore, sort of Brian Gerrish and people like that. I was explaining all about that. Now with Spivey being flushed as well, who are the COINTELPRO people? I find it quite difficult. I think there might be a bit of a deficit of these COINTELPRO people. And I think that might be one of the reasons that they might be trying to get at me. Now there is another very good reason they might be getting at me, which Spivey has completely neglected to mention, which is to do with the Woolwich hoax and the fact that I named Dana Skelly as somebody who must be involved with it. And if she's not involved with it, which is within the realms of possibility, but it's extremely unlikely, you know, she'd be able to point to the direction of the person who would be in charge of it, because it's to do with Transport for London and the road network and the fact they've shut the road network off and all that type of stuff. But the thing is that he's never mentioned that. He's never mentioned the fact that I've talked to him about harassment and how he's going to get set up for harassment. He's kept saying it's going to be liable. I said, bollocks, it's not going to be liable. They will not have a liable case. It will be a harassment. That's what they'll do. And I explained about first incident harassment notices, blah, blah, blah. So the fact is he omits to tell anybody any of these salient things that he's actually interchanged with you. Now, if he was to have named that Dana Skelly, right, it's easy to verify, you know, like publicly available information. You don't have to go around digging around for personal photos of people. You don't have to do any of that. You can prove that she would have been in charge of various parts of the road that would have been instrumental to having that hoax happen. It's open and shut, and it's not just some scumbag family from up north who just were cashing in on some money, the Rigby family. It's nothing like that. It's completely different. So just bear that in mind. Now, as I said, whilst I was thinking about who are the COINTELPRO people now, I was thinking, you know, and I couldn't really come up with any kind of good answer. I just couldn't work it out. I mean, I know all the COINTELPRO people, but you know, there wasn't anyone actively on the ground in England really hitting it hard at the minute. And then I came across these two plonkers on Jim Fetzer's show. I think it was on the 13th of August, and they're called. Give me a second. This will make you laugh. It's worth having a look. They're called John Patterson and George Lees, and I've made a video called John Patterson and George Lees, educationally subnormal fraud experts. When Spivey was saying that, you know, I've got some cheek claiming to be clever because only really stupid people claim to be clever, and it's like, well, under the circumstance, whenever I've mentioned being clever, it's always been leading on to something. You know, I'm not just banding it around for no reason. But anyway, I can take it on the chin, doesn't bother me. But this guy called George Lees, when he went on that show, he started off, it's very funny. What he did, and you'll see why this is relevant, is he said, I used to work as a kind of scientist through my life. I got loads of money. He was kind of bragging, and he goes, and he sort of said that things I wasted in my life, it was a waste of time. And he said, but now I get to put all my brain power into like solving frauds in the United Kingdom or something. And then he goes on to like for an hour and a bit interview, and he couldn't answer a single question. And he had his mate there with him, and there was people trying to like ask him loaded questions to help him. Couldn't answer a single question. The guy's a complete fucking buffoon. Now, both of these two know I've put that video up. George Patterson's threatened to beat me up not in so many words in the past, before I'd even ever actually said anything negative about him, because I didn't even know who he was. So he's one of these kind of people. If they threaten to beat you up before they know who before you even know who they are, and you've never slagged them off, and then they kind of back away from it, they're obviously just like completely full of shit. I mean, people who threaten to beat people up normally are, aren't they? But anyway, I just find these two so incredibly funny, right? Because, I was kind of hunting for where is the new kind of COINTELPRO angle. Like, Brian Gerrish is doing some new stuff. That's obviously bollocks. But, like, people can't get tricked by that again. The old people can't get tricked. New people might be able to, but old people can't. As in, people have always been through the mill and spoken to them in the past. But yeah, I think you really should look these two up. They're absolutely hilarious. They're not as sort of silly and bad. They're not like little children, like with bad language, like Spivey and all this little gang. But yeah, I really think you should have a look at them. They are absolutely hilarious. I don't know how they get a fan base, but they have got a weird little fan base of people going, yeah, exactly, I know about that, but even higher level. This stuff is mad. They're completely mad. But anyway, I'd have a look at it. Anyway, my name's Tom Cahill. It's the 31st of August, 2014, and hopefully this just makes things clear, because I think that Spivey's been messed with, but he's also lost all his integrity, and more importantly, possibly, because he can always get that back and just, explain it some later date why he's done that, associating with Bill Baloney, and Peter Tatchell, absolutely disgusting. Alright, thanks very much.